pjnet.tv. Good evening, it's 9 p.m. on the East Coast, and we have a second-time guest. The only thing better than a first-time guest is a first-time guest that becomes a second-time guest. We're recording, we're streaming, our guest is waiting, our chat room is waiting. We'll begin a countdown to Studio 37 Alpha, starting now. Well, good evening. Welcome. As I said, this is pjnet.tv. Get ready to be excited because excitement is everywhere. In the way of introduction, last year, I think it was October, Lori Vober appeared on our program and talked about this ethereal idea of a book. We couldn't show a book cover as we are tonight above the fireplace here at Studio 37, but that's just the image. The book is around the corner, but Lori Vober is back to tell us about this incredible journey from 29. Last time we spoke, we talked a lot about at 29 years old, you suffered a stroke. You have subsequently went from 0 kids to 3 kids. Now you've got that. And the book is materializing before your very eyes, and suddenly you are cast into the spotlight. How is all of this feeling to you?
Everything's going great, Mark, and I really appreciate you having me back on and this opportunity. I'm so excited to be back with you. And yes, a lot has happened since we were together back in October. Like we talked about back in October, my journey started way back when I was age 29, and I suffered a massive stroke caused by a malformation of blood vessels on the right side of my brain. It was undetected at the time, left me paralyzed on the left side. We were living in Minnesota at the time, and a year ago, I felt called to write my story, and now a year later, my book is coming out. It's coming out this Friday, and it's called Choices. When you're faced with a challenge, what choice will you make? And it's really all about different challenges my husband Danis and I have been through over our 24 years of marriage, all the way from stroke to epilepsy to job losses to adoption parenting, and just when you're faced with a challenge, we all have a choice of how we're going to handle those challenges, and that's how this book transpired.
So it is really, by the way, when she said this Friday means March the 11th. If you're watching this afterwards, it's out. And Lori, I have had the chance to look at and sometimes be involved in book launches. And I have watched your book launch with great interest because this book launch is doing very well as best we can tell. Did you get some help on that, or?
I didn't actually get professional help. I was a part of several other book launches earlier this year. Other authors that were launching their book, I took advantage of the opportunity by being on their launch teams in order to learn what to do and took good notes. My background is marketing and sales, so I am just utilizing my sales and marketing background and just putting in place now what I did prior, and just doing all I can to get the word out, and I believe a lot in trying to promote my mission, which is really to use my story to bring hope and encouragement to others.
Well, you have had a rocky road and it's been quite a roller coaster ride, but regardless of your circumstances, I think if we were honest and candid, we've all had that roller coaster ride. The experiences themselves, the circumstances may be different, but coping with them is the problem. You know, we can get angry, we can get mad, but I take it by the title of your book, the first step in managing or coping is owning the fact that we made choices to get here, and we can make choices to get out of here. Is that oversimplified?
That's really correct. God has blessed me with the ability to persevere through my challenges, and He's also really blessed me with the um, glasses half full, not half empty attitude. And that was even before the stroke. I've always had that attitude, and that's really, really helped me persevere through my challenges. When we're faced with challenges, and all of us are, some are big, some are small, we do have a choice of how we're going to handle them. I'm just thankful that I've always had the ability, even back when I've had struggles in college, I've had the ability just to persevere through, look for the positive, and keep going. And I strongly feel that many times it's your attitude more than your abilities, more than your talents. It's your attitude that sometimes can get you through the hardest times.
And that is a choice. And we, at any given moment, there is undeniable evidence that is factual to justify being angry, depressed, and sad, and all that. But at that same moment, there is also an equal amount of evidence to justify being optimistic and hopeful and filled with joy. So our mental state, our coping mechanisms are really a matter of choice, and that I rejoice that you have used that idea to title your book, because it's something that seems in culture we have a lot of victims and entitled people, it seems, and while that may offer some short term of comfort, its long term effect is actually detrimental.
That's true. That is true. And I think with the stroke, it was the fact that I did like to exercise prior to the stroke, and so in my mind originally, I just kept the perspective that if I would just continue to maintain physical activity and continue to persevere on a physical aspect, I could get through it. Then the seizures came along. My brain started interacting with the scar tissue from the stroke, which caused epilepsy and seizures. That was a lot more difficult for me to deal with emotionally than the stroke was, because I couldn't deal with the seizures on a physical level. That was much more emotional. And that's where, again, choices, you have a choice of how you're going to handle things. And that's where I just continued to persevere, had a very strong faith and good support system. And along the way, you just keep going, one foot in front of the other. And you look back on your journey over time, and eventually you progress to where you want to be.
Well, and this may be too personal, but you can dodge it if you want to, and just offer some vague, general, esoteric answer. But socially, I think the effects of being subject to seizures, it's sort of like having a relationship, a friendship with someone who has a special needs child that may be autistic. It's like, well, hey, let's go out for no, let's not. Because So, what was the social impact?
It was very difficult. It was actually extremely difficult because we had just moved from Minnesota to Arizona when the seizure started. So I had actually two whammies at the same time, in the fact that I had just had my stroke. So people didn't know me very well here in Arizona. They didn't know the real me. They only saw the disability. They didn't
Hmm.
see the real me. So I was trying to establish friendships, and get people to know who the real me was. And then the seizures happened. And yes, there is a stigmatism, unfortunately, with that, and the fact it's a fear factor. People don't know what to
Mm,
do with that. And
right.
so it took many, many years to establish good friendships. And I became very involved in our church and in the women's ministry. And that is really where I plugged in and where I found my good friendships and my good support group. And through Bible study and leadership in the women's ministry is really where I found my place. And as I'm moving forward in the future and through this writing journey and through writing my book, one of my future goals is I would love to start my own podcast in the future for stroke survivors. And that is just one new thing that's come out of this writing journey because I would love to give the opportunity to give stroke survivors and other brain injury survivors a place to voice themselves. Because I found when I did have my stroke, it people look on the outside and they don't realize you're the same person on the inside. So I would love to give an avenue to people to have a voice and have a place to share their stories.
Well, interesting you should mention that. I was going to get around to podcast. You have gone from, writing, working on a book, working through these life issues, to your life must be something like being in a blender. You've got a book launch going on, and all of a sudden, I mean, today you had 2 podcast interviews, but you've had 3 others. So you've gone from obscurity to in the spotlight. Tell us about these podcast interviews that will be and when they'll be available.
They'll be available. Some of them are available right now, and as they are available, I am posting things on my Facebook page. And as they become available in the future, in the coming month, they'll be spaced out. I will continue to post them, and it has been just an amazing opportunity to get my story out. And I'm so grateful that as I reached out to different podcasters, that they've interviewed me, and my comfort level and talking to people and sharing my story has blossomed, and I'm so thankful for that, because really what I really wanted to do was just to take my story and share it with others, and in hopes that I could help other people, whether their challenges are big or small, whether they have whatever their challenge is, give them hope and encouragement. But without these podcasts, without these interviews, without help from people like you, I can't get my word out. So I am so appreciative of all the people that are helping me. It wouldn't happen without it.
Well, Lori, think back to that first podcast you were interviewed, to the 2 that you did today. Scale for us your nervousness and anxiety going into that first one as opposed to the 4th and 5th one.
I was much more nervous. Well, even if I think back to our interview in October, which was my very first interview, was with you back in October. My nervousness back then was incredible compared to now. And I think, again, that I have a strong faith, and I think God has positioned me, and He's worked with me and gotten me ready for this. He knew I wanted to be a motivational speaker, which is my next step now that my book is out. I really want to start speaking. I really want to take that to the next platform. I've become much more comfortable doing Facebook Lives. I do a lot of Zoom calls. I do a lot of leading of groups of 10 to 15 women for Bible studies. And so I think over the past year, God has used me in those different arenas to prepare me so that I'm ready for that next step when that next step comes.
Well, and so much of the podcast, are driven by marketing. You need to market your book, you need to get it out there, blah blah blah. But I don't get the sense that you're going to stop there, because you've already shared with me that you have set aside the entire month of May for a project that is very dear to your heart.
Yes, yes. So I'm super excited about Stroke Awareness Month, which is in May, and I'm quite passionate about Stroke Awareness Month because of my own stroke. And with my book launch, I really want to take my platform and try and make other people more aware of. Uh, of stroke, and that it can hit anyone, because the tendency is for people to really consider that a stroke is something for the older generation. And I'm a walking reminder that that is just not true. And so my goal is to, number one, to do some book signing events at fitness centers where I will be giving out marketing material on stroke awareness. And the other thing I would like to do is to do a fundraiser. It's going to be a one-arm challenge fundraiser to raise money for a stroke camp. And I'm just trying to bring awareness to others of what it's like to live with one arm. And people don't realize when you only have one arm, one hand, life is a little more challenging. I've lived like that for since 2003, and it's possible. But people don't realize in the busyness of life that it can be challenging to live like that. So I'm encouraging people as a fundraiser and just a chance to be a little more aware of other people around them to take on this challenge.
You know, Lori, you've got quite a bit of ambition, and you've mentioned going to the gyms twice thus far in our program. You look like you're not. You don't look like you're living a sedentary lifestyle. Tell us about your physical activities.
I do work out quite a bit. When I'm not able to go to the gym, I have a treadmill and a stationary bike here at home. So I usually try and work out every day, either at home or at a local fitness center. So I do try and do some physical activity every day myself to keep myself in shape. So that is important.
Well, as a coach and former personal trainer, when you say you work out every day, that's just not enough of an answer for me. Tell me about your workouts.
Well, if I'm at home, I work out usually on my bike. I like to do 4 or 5 miles on my stationary bike, and then on my treadmill, I like to walk a mile to work on my gait pattern, my walk, and improve my. I'm constantly trying to improve my walk. When I go to the gym, my gym workout is about a 2 hour workout because I work out a lot on weights and the bike and the treadmill. So it's a long process when I go to the gym. So not every day is a gym day. It just depends on what I have going on.
Well, at 2 hours at the gym, I can imagine every day can't be a gym day because that would be. Well, it can. It just depends on what you're willing to give up to spend those 2 hours. Well, that's not bad. That's better. But I want to go a little deeper. You say you bicycle 4 miles. Okay.
Four to
Now,
5 miles.
all right. Well, that's close. That's close. Now, how long does that take? I mean, if it took you 4 hours to do it, I wouldn't be very impressed.
No, about 30 minutes.
Okay. Now we know. Do you keep track of your heart rate?
No, not usually. I just
Okay.
bike.
Okay. Yeah, I'm big on aerobics as a means to weight loss, which weight loss isn't actually the goal. The goal is to change the ratio of fat to muscle, what they call the BMI. Um, but but no, you know you're in incredible shape, and it's a lot easier to stay in shape, folks, than it is to get in shape. And I'll offer this to anybody who's willing to listen, because most of us would like to be in better shape. We just don't want to pay the price. Okay, but hear me. This is good stuff. I don't care who you are. The less you do, the less you can do.
That's
The more
true.
you do, the more you can do. Folks, just get off the couch, okay? Get out of the recliner, get off the couch, and you will find if you will challenge yourself to do something, you'll be able to do more and more. And it didn't take it. You didn't get, or we don't get obese overnight, and we're not going to get skinny overnight either. Okay, be patient. It's a persistent. Just keep doing it. To be consistent. Yeah, I watched the just in kind of preparation. I went to your website, which, by the way, folks, is at strangely enough LoriVober.com. I'll put it on the screen in case you couldn't have figured it out anyway. But there it is. That you got to spell it right. So I watched you. You had uploaded our previous show back from October, I believe it was, and at the time. Your dog was in the room or something, and I'm just wondering where your dog is now.
Oh, I put them in. I actually put them in the other room because I didn't want them to start barking and disturb us. So I actually had 3 dogs. So
well, that could you know your dogs better than I do, but let me tell you what would happen with my dog if I put him in the other room. That would cause him to bark. You know, you cannot be sure. Did I? You said you might be doing your own podcast at some point. Did I understand that correctly?
That is a goal that I would love to pursue. Yes.
Lori, has anybody told you how hard that is and how likely it is to fail?
No. But thank you for that encouragement. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I think. Here's the thing. It's like blogging. It's like anything. Well, okay. Well, let me offer you this encouragement in case you missed it the first time. The less you do, the less you can do. The more you do, the more you can do. I think it is consistent effort over time. And I think so many people go in with high hopes and optimism, which is good. I mean, passion, and motivation. But when they put a little bit out there, if they don't see themselves catapulted into stardom, they feel like they have failed. And I think every podcaster, every blogger, everybody that's trying to make a difference in the outside culture has to wrestle with this, with the exception of the people that do make it, and we look at them and say, well, what'd they do? How'd they do it? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't know. I wish I did. But Lori, your ambition is unbridled, and it's oozing from every pore, and it's in every page of the book, I am sure. And let me ask something. Would it not have been for a stroke at age 29? Would it not have been for seizures as a complication of the surgery? Do you think you ever would have written anything, let alone this book?
Probably not. I don't know what our life would have been like. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think we would have had the challenging life we have had I not had the stroke and the seizures. We honestly, my husband and I had a great life prior to the stroke and the seizures. We both worked for the airlines, and then right before the stroke, I chose to step down from my corporate career at the airlines and take a job at our church. We were trying to start our own family at the time, and I thought the less stress would help me. I think it actually saved my life by taking the job at our church, and that was part of God's plan. However, we had flight benefits. We were traveling all over the world. We were fancy free, and so I don't know what God's plan was, and I don't know that any of us really do. I think you just have to maintain a strong faith no matter what comes your way, and keep your eyes open on God and His plan, and just know that life doesn't always turn out how we expect it, but roll with the punches, and keep your hope and your faith strong, and keep your eyes open for new opportunities. And when something doesn't go your way, look for the next opportunity. I had no idea this will be the route I would go, and I certainly had no idea I would use my marketing and sales background one day to promote myself in a book. That was the farthest thing when I had an internship out of college, marketing magazine sales. I had no idea my own book would be something in my future, and here I am. So you just never know. You really never know.
I look back similarly, Lori. When I was in college, I actually worked my way through college. I had like 4 part-time jobs, but one of them was at a 100,000 watt FM rock station, radio station, and my life was as far from the Lord as it can be at the time, but I didn't realize that God was preparing me for something later. And I just saw it as a way to, make some money to get through college at the time. And I had a blast. I loved it. And once you get that in your blood, it's there pretty much part of your DNA at that point. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future." That verse is important to you, isn't it, Lori?
It is. It is. It's one of my favorite verses for sure.
It's it's the verse that if I was told you could only keep one verse, that is no doubt in my mind the one that I would hang on to. And it has sustained me through some very difficult times, but it sustains me even when those times are not difficult. Sometimes it's just uncertainty. It doesn't have to be adversity to be overcome. We have to overcome nothingness, insignificance. Our culture defines success, but it doesn't emphasize significance enough, because you can be significant as a father, as a mother, as a teacher, as a significant other to young people. There is, and this is where so many successful people miss the mark, because they sacrifice everything else to achieve the measure of success, usually measured in, money, wealth,
Right.
things. And
Right.
significance is a different thing, and I'm starting to preach now. But anyway, well, Lori, I don't know what is next other than what you've already mentioned. Didn't you say you were doing something like in November? What was there something?
I will be. I'm in the also in the rough draft form of a devotional. So that is actually on the book side. After I complete this book launch, I have started another book, which will be a 31-day devotional. So that is something I'm working on, and hopefully this time next year I'll have book number 2 coming out. And so that's next underway as far as my writing career goes. And then we'll just see what new doors God opens up. And I hope with this book I can start speaking and sharing my story.
I hope it happens. I really do, because I think that you have a testimony to go along with the encouragement of the gospel. Sometimes we know things, but we don't feel them. You know what I mean? Sometimes
Right.
we feel things that aren't even real. So I think that your testimony, your life, and this book will work together to bring a clear gospel message to a world that, is dark and needing encouragement and needing strength. And Lori, this has been a great time we've spent together. I'm so glad that we were able to do it. I hope you know that we'll keep the light on for you whenever God is doing something in your life that you would like to proclaim. I hope that you will turn to PJ Net, because we would be happy to have you back anytime. We've enjoyed our time tonight. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed being with you so very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Well, folks, that was Lori Vober from the great state of Arizona, formerly from Minnesota. I don't know why anybody would choose to live in Minnesota, but I don't know why anybody would choose to live in Arizona either. And they probably wonder why I would choose to live in Florida. We all have a place we call home, and we just love our home. Oh gosh, well, it has been a wonderful get together tonight here on pjnet.tv. I hope you'll make your plans to be with us tomorrow night. We're here Monday through Thursday, and we have room for 2 guests per night. Sometimes we have 2, sometimes we have 1. But I want to give a shout out to our producer, Barbara, who arranges the vast majority of our guests to appear on the program. And she does a lot of other stuff. Oh, by the way, those little Facebook events, when you see those, how about just say interested or going? It kind of helps with the algorithm thingy. You know what I mean? Since we don't have another guest, I know we've been here quite a while. You're probably tired of this, but I had a couple of announcements that I wanted to share with you, if I can just think of them. Yes, announcements. Very soon, I've alluded to this before, very soon we'll be, this month, in other words, this month, we will be making an announcement of a new product coming out that is consuming all of me. Okay. I also, everybody talks about the Blue Ridge Christian Writers Conference, the granddaddy of them all, you know. Well, folks, Doug Carter contacted me in fact, he contacted me a few weeks ago and said, hey, you've got some lapel pins. If you'll send them to me, I'll see some of our PJNet people there. Well, at the time he said that, it was uncertain that if I shipped them that day, that it would arrive prior to that conference. But he contacted me earlier this week and said he will be going to the Blue Ridge Christian Writers Conference. And if I'd send him some lapel pins, he would be the chargé d'affaires. And he would identify our PJNet ambassadors and give them a nice lapel PJNet.TV lapel pin to wear at the conference. So, PJNet family that is in attendance at the Blue Ridge, granddaddy of them all, find Doug Carter. He will have a lapel pin for you to wear as a member of the PJNet family. You can be an ambassador for PJNet and get a free lapel pin. How about that? Got some new stuff coming in. In fact, I left it on the front steps. Didn't pick it up, and it's raining here. But anyway, but we got some new stuff coming in. Oh, here's the big one. Get this. This Saturday, the cable company will install new internet service here at the Eagle's Nest, our broadcast facilities. Folks, you have no idea the engineering nightmare that this is, trying to use 4 DSL lines to get enough bandwidth to do what we do here. It will actually save us money. We will be spending less, far less, on that cable company, Comcast, than we were for 4 DSL lines from the phone company, and it should be more reliable as well. So let's hope that they stay on schedule. It started raining today, and it is expected to rain the rest of the week and clear up on Saturday. So who knows, they may get behind. But either way, it is imminent that that hurdle should disappear. It will quadruple the amount of bandwidth that we have. Anyway, it's an engineering nightmare, trust me. Before I leave, I'd like to challenge myself, as I do. But I'll share it with you too, because it has meant so much for me. And you've heard Lori talk about her verse, Jeremiah 29:11, that she draws strength from. But folks, draw strength from this. Challenge yourself by asking yourself these 2, in my opinion, very profound questions. The first one is, think about the boldest thing that you have ever done for Jesus Christ. And then ask yourself this question: how long ago was that? And then accept the challenge to never be satisfied with either answer.